He is the chosen one. You must see it.
I gave Qui-Gon my word.
Is he the chosen one?
He is.
And it is the Jedi who will stand in the way of peace.
It's not whether or not we fight.
It's how we choose to fight that matters.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
The Force will be with you, always.
And I will not be the last Jedi.
Listening to The World Between Worlds, a Star Wars podcast where we're marathoning all of Star Wars in lead up to Rise of Skywalker. We're getting towards the end of Rebels. This week, we learn more about Hera's past. We return to Ryloth.
We visit the ice moon of Geonosis.
Also the icy heart of one Agent Kallus. And our heroes have a bit of a crisis, and they have to figure out what the next move is for them. And now we have to figure out what's next for us. My name is Yates.
My name is Jessica.
My name is Jordan, and I am a film enthusiast.
My name is Keats, and I am a cinema enthusiast.
We're talking about Season 2, Episode 16, Homecoming, Episode 17, The Honorable Ones, and Episode 18, Shroud of Darkness.
This is Episode 51. Hopefully all those storming Area 51 memes are still up and running.
Oh, very, very true. It's never...
We're going to storm those stories.
You know what? They might have been able to catch Area 51 off guard, the first 3 days of the meme, maybe. But we're going into the first month now.
It's a good meme.
It is a good meme.
Just gonna putter
My
out
favorite was
when
you go into the bathroom at Area 51 and the soap kills 100% of the germs.
Let's make some backup sound bites in case they actually did storm Area 51 and they have uncovered everything.
Oh, shit.
Wow, guys, can you believe what they found there?
It's so crazy. Star Wars in real life.
Crazy.
We're going to make so much money on this podcast.
Dude, they're holding Forrest Whitaker because they actually think he's Saw Gerrera. Fucking crazy.
Every day, more lies.
If you were to guess that the episode Homecoming was going to be about a character returning home, you would be correct. In this case, it's about Hera returning to Ryloth despite some mixed feelings in doing so. There she is reunited with her father, who has, some different ideas on how to engage in a rebellion against the Empire.
Destroy this ship and the Empire will just send another. But if we take it, we can use it to fight them.
You haven't been here to see what the Empire has done to our world. They plunder our wealth and sell our people into slavery. This ship must burn for all Ryloth to see.
Keats, do you want to talk about just overall what Hera's arc in this episode was?
I mean, Hera doesn't really have an arc per se. She just kind of has to learn to grow with her father and see his perspective on things, and their relationship is kind of tied into one story. Like, it's not just like a one person. Minor spoilers, we see more Cham Syndulla, but Cham Syndulla compared to how he was in this episode is like a totally different person than the way we see him down the road, because his ways were changed by seeing how good of a person his daughter is.
I like the fact that they tie her in with this character that we've seen before, and I had a different reaction to Cham Syndulla. I remember him. He actually stood out to me because he was kind of he was like a rebel before rebels were a thing. In the Clone Wars, that was kind of one of the issues that the Clone Wars brought up was what's the right way to be? Is it right? Should we back the Republic? Should we be neutral? Should we be out on our own, fighting our own rebellious fight? And back then in the Clone Wars, when we had Anakin and Obi-Wan, who were the status quo Republic, it was more gray area to be this rebel.
We see it in Saw Gerrera's arc too, the rebels are basically, engaged in terrorism against the state,
for sure.
Or what could easily be labeled as terrorism.
But I always kind of felt like they were in the right. And now I feel like you see here, that was the right, not the right way to go about it. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I was thinking about that during this episode, actually, where they were in the ship, when they took over the ship, and then it's all of them just shooting all the TIE fighters. Yeah, they're just murdering these people, and this is literally just terrorism, but it's terrorism to a shitty government that's taking over an entire galaxy and enslaving normal people and taking away their lives just for the benefit of themselves that way.
I mean, I wouldn't call it terrorism because I think
it's a strong word, I guess.
I think terrorism, like the whole point of terrorism is to like strike terror in the heart of the people, whereas like that's what the Empire is.
I mean, technically,
like the Empire is there.
Imperial citizens are terrorized by these people's acts, though. Like people who like enjoy the Empire and think it's a good thing are terrified. I mean, look at in the next episode where Kallus talks about how terrified he was being attacked.
Yeah, but he was a soldier.
But in this case, this is a colony that's been like taken over by the Empire. So the only citizens that are there
I'm just saying
are
as
soldiers.
a whole. Obviously,
right.
for Ryloth, it's a different story. Obviously.
Right. So the version that we see in this is Ryloth, has a generic Rebels storyline. Like Ryloth has like a new spark of hope or something, but like. Then maybe like pan back and like on Coruscant, it's like, oh my god, another like major planet has been attacked by these like terrorists, and we're losing all this infrastructure and so on and so forth.
You bring up a good point though, because do we ever at any point see regular civilians who are like pro-Empire? Not just people who are like, whatever, same shit, different day, but people who are like, yes, stability, like we like the Empire. I don't think we have seen an example of any just like normal civilian.
No more than just like a throwaway line, I think, by an extra.
There was like the only two I can think of are that one character from the first season whose name I can't remember, who was like the secret guy who would like infiltrate rebellions. But
yeah,
was, like,
Gul Travis. He was like a senator, so he was part of the establishment technically.
But since the Empire has taken over, it just seems like mostly people are subjects, not citizens.
That's because like these shows and these stories want to paint a picture that these are the bad guys, so they're not going to show like Imperial sympathizers.
I agree. I guess I do agree. It's kind of like a missed opportunity. Like in the next episode, we get like the Imperial point of view, where like from like a soldier, but like again, like the citizens are kind of like who are the people that think the Empire is good. But we really, other than outside like the books, like I don't think there's really in the comics.
There's a recent in the back of the TIE Fighter comic that's out. There's like always like a 5-page short story, and I mentioned this story like in the last one because I really enjoyed it. It's just like one of the pilots. He was like talking with his grandma who has like amnesia. And she like kept calling the Empire the Republic, and he kept reminding her like, no, it's called the Empire now. And she's like, what's the difference? Like, there's no difference. Like, even though I can't remember, like she enjoys the Empire and she liked the Republic, and she's like encouraging him to be a TIE fighter.
We get a different sort of angle on what Hera's backstory was before. Like, if you didn't know that she was related to Cham Syndulla to this point, I was just curious, like, what did we think Hera's backstory was before this moment? Because now we get the idea that she has like probably been super experienced with military combat even when she was a kid, given like where she came up with. What was your picture, I guess, of just what her childhood was like before this?
Well, she seems like a very like humble and understated character, like just the way that she conducts herself. She doesn't like put on this like regal, like I'm from this like, like a famous person in the galaxy.
And she's like the most like empathetic person on that ship. So like imagine coming up with like a strong like military father, and you also are just like so also emotionally available in the way that Hera is.
Right. And like I guess I just didn't think much about what her childhood was like because it just wasn't brought up.
Well, for me, I didn't watch at least the majority of Clone Wars before seeing Rebels when I watched it for the first time. So even when Cham Syndulla came on screen, I wasn't like, oh my god, it's that character from the Clone Wars. I was just like, oh, it's a guy. I think it's implied that Hera like ran away from his father.
Yeah, basically, it seems like whatever went down, there was like unfinished business. Like she left unexpectedly, and he felt like he didn't get closure on something. I don't know. I guess that's the major bridge they have like meet at like over this story. Did anyone else feel? I felt like it was like pretty fast. Like,
yeah, it was
super fast. Yeah.
Especially like the degree like he betrays them while they're on a mission.
Yeah.
Like, and we know like how important this shit is to Hera. Like, I guess maybe she was not expecting it, but like didn't have high expectations of her dad or something.
Father, what are you doing?
We only needed your help to get on board. I'm sorry.
I thought like that was like, I would have liked to see it patched up better.
Yeah.
It was kind of
Everyone
quick.
was so chipper and happy at the end. If I was Kanan or Sabine or Zeb, I would have been like, dude, what the fuck? Your dad's crazy.
Do you know who was sour though? And it was two like really small moments, but it was like Ezra. Ezra like had his like two little moments where he was like, "Oh, I care about you more than your dad," like really low key. And I thought that was really cute.
Well, I felt like that was also about the difference maybe between like the Rebel crew versus the difference of like what the Ryloth mission was, because I feel like that was kind of what it was trying to illustrate with his little scene, was like Hera felt like her dad cared more about Ryloth and like his revolutionary politics than the family, and he was saying like, well, the family is the most important, like we do this for our family. But I don't think anyone is wrong or right. Like I think Ezra just feels that way because he's not like a freedom fighter for Lothal, so he doesn't necessarily like I thought it was really beautiful when Cham Syndulla was like reacting. He was like, yes, like I'm doing this for my people, Ryloth. But that, I felt like that was kind of the break there.
Right.
And I empathize with his point of view, is at the end of the day, how effective is it to try to liberate the galaxy?
Right.
Does that really work? Or can you just liberate your own people? Because you don't necessarily, you can't speak for the whole galaxy or know what the whole galaxy needs.
That's a huge task.
Right, and I guess just thinking about it now, that's exactly what he did in the previous one.
You have provided well for your men, all your people. So why won't you help me free them from this occupation?
I don't trust Senator Ta. His plans for a world after the war.
The Republic will help you rebuild. We won't abandon you.
Your troops will stay for security?
For a while, to keep the peace.
Another armed occupation is not a free Ryloth. How long before I am fighting you, Master Jedi?
I don't need to cooperate with you. I'd rather have this Ryloth separatist thing be an insular thing that just my people has to deal with. And then he did decide to open himself up to like the bigger conflict in some way by letting the Republic in.
And it backfired.
It backfired.
Exactly as he thought it would. Because power is as power does. And at the end of the day, he opened it up to the power of the Republic, and then it just turned into the Empire. So his first instincts were correct in that he should have just, kept it more insular, and then it could have been something that he could win. Going back to like Hera's backstory, Hera is very kind of like assimilated, and this is the first time we hear her like talk in the dialect of the Twi'leks.
I am not wasting my life. I help people. I lead ships into battle. I am part of something bigger.
The rebellion. I thought you knew better than to put your faith in outsiders. You forget what happened when we trusted the Republic.
This is different. The rebels are fighting to free everyone.
That was like a super cool moment, hearing her kind of like voice modulate. And you could see from maybe Champ's point of view of like, look, you're not even talking like how we all talk. You don't like, you totally gave up your accent to like
fit in with these people.
Yeah, to fit in with these people. And then once she started talking in her own dialect and her own accent, I started to get more of like, wow, she is like the daughter of this like important guy on this planet.
Just hypothetically, if Hera wasn't a rebel, would he like still, that wouldn't give him an opportunity to patch things up because he gets in his own way of that?
You mean like if she ran away from home just to run away from home, not to
pursue
be a
something
rebel?
non-political, something like to be an engineer? That's not something that like Cham Syndulla can relate to on a personal level, so it would be harder for him to get across his love for his daughter because he can't wouldn't have that in common with her like he does in this episode. So is he...
I guess I would just feel like that would be completely different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like he lucked out in the situation that he's in with Hera being involved in politics. But if she wasn't involved in politics...
Like you think their relationship would completely die?
Yeah, completely, I think. I think it's just like
you would
a case of
so
luck.
it's still like the politics is like the most important thing. But
Exactly.
obviously with very good reason. I mean, and we've talked about it before, and like he mentions it directly without showing it, but just like the Twi'leks and Star Wars lore have just always been they're the ones that are slaves. Like that just became part of their like history.
Something I thought was really like too fast was the fact that they both got what they wanted in the end. Like, he got the other Starship Destroyer destroyed. I'm like, oh, we're doing this. Like, that was really quick.
If it wasn't just that it was quick, it was that the whole thing was easy.
Yeah.
The whole thing felt easy.
Everybody got what they wanted, and it, like, wasn't that hard.
Especially when, like, the complication is, like, as messy as we just, like, were talked about for, like, forever. Like, given how, like, messy everything is, like, all the answers to it were, like, pretty easy.
Yeah, didn't they, like, not want to blow up the ship, but then they blow up the other one?
Yeah. In the Honorable Ones, on a sort of reconnaissance mission, the rebels are attacked by Agent Kallus in an ambush. Most of our heroes get away, except for Zeb, who is accidentally shot down to a moon on Geonosis with Agent Kallus. They are stranded in a cave and have to fend for survival and find a way to cooperate with each other.
What are you doing? I'm just thinking about how easy I could crush your head. But I'd rather wait for you to heal so we can finish our fight fair and square. You're expecting your rebel friends to come to your rescue. Your friends fled. If anyone finds us, it'll be the Empire, and you will be captured.
It was very exciting for me just how many times you said, just kill the motherfucker in the episode.
I know.
Just knowing the way that it was going to go.
Because that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
If I, like, because I hate Agent Kallus, and I do think he's evil.
You wouldn't shave his mutton chops first and then kill him?
I would, like, torture him by, like, shaving.
Please, don't do that.
Yeah, that's right. I would, like, do it with, like, a lightsaber, like, shave his mutton chops, and then stab him.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, to be fair, up until this point, and you know, I have an affection for Agent Kallus retroactively, but up until this point, the show has done absolutely nothing to imply that Agent Kallus has like a soul, a moral compass. He is the definition of like a two-dimensional villain character, like up until this point. I mean, I remember at the point in the show, like when I was watching it as it was coming out, I'm like, I can't believe this character is still on at this point when we have other people, and also knowing the fact, and I don't think you knew this, Jessica, but that the actor who plays him is David Oyelowo, who's like an Academy Award nominated actor. The main thing I think he was nominated for is he played Martin Luther King in that Selma movie.
Shit.
Yeah, and I know he's been in a couple of things. He's in Interstellar for 5 seconds.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
We need food.
You have this guy and you're probably paying him so much money to be on the show in this thankless role. Like, what are they gonna do with this guy? And yeah, I mean, like, given how it was set up in season 1, like,
only the honor guard of Lasan may carry a bow rifle. I know! I removed it from a guardsman myself! I was there when Lasan fell. I know why you fear those disruptors. I gave the order to use them.
Yeah, this is Zeb's guy. Zeb should kill him and get revenge. Arc complete. But no. They're not giving us that.
Well, and I feel like it was like the best for me of like, holy shit, I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. Like, this episode has showed me like the error of my ways. Just because he doesn't seem like he has a soul, he exists. So therefore, he has the force within him.
And
both good
doesn't
and
deserve
bad.
to die or get his hair shaved off by a lightsaber.
What are you doing?
Jordan, would you want to talk just a bit about like what you think Zeb's point of view at this point in the episode is? Because Zeb definitely has enough beef. Like, he definitely, in the fight they had before, like, he was doing it to kill him. Like, no doubt about it.
For sure.
So what's different now?
Well, like in the beginning of the episode when they first get stranded, he says that he's just gonna wait for him to heal so they can have a fair fight. Because I guess like in his culture, fighting is very it's like an honor code thing. You know, there's like morals to it. Like when he explained how you give the weapon to like your foe that bested you.
The Busan Kira, the Sot warrior way.
And he's more connected to his culture now than he was before too.
For sure. So I mean, at the beginning, I'm just like, okay, he's just doing this, you know, for like his code or whatever. But towards the end, I think he's like for sure feeling more sympathy. Obviously, he still like hates the Empire. I'm sure he still has some hate for Kallus, but you know, he says everything that happened to his people is like in the past.
on Lasan. It wasn't supposed to be a massacre, but I realized the Empire wanted to make an example. I know before I took credit for it.
What happened on Lasan? It's over for me. I've moved on.
You just like seeing the way they animated his facial expressions when like Kallus was saying his story and his side. You know, I felt that Zeb was actually taking it to heart, actually listening what he had to say.
Yeah, and there was like, you were speaking about Zeb's animated face, but also Kallus's animated face. Like, this is like the first time we've ever seen him speak with like genuine sincerity.
And you see the light behind his eyes.
Yeah.
For the first time.
And I watched the episode twice. Both times, it definitely, you felt the huge shift. Like, after they've crashed, it's just like really long, measured silences. And it's just like, okay, the tone is completely different. All the action we got at the front of the episode, it's like the slowest and most, I would say most character focused, because it's really just two people talking like most of the
really
episode.
Slow, yeah.
And I was just like, fuck, yes. Yeah. Like, slow episode. And it's so simple. Like, I feel like it's been done so many times before, but they definitely milk it for everything that Star Wars can do to this story.
Yeah. Well, it kind of reminded me, like Zeb with Agent Kallus, of how he was with the clones. There's kind of this, like, veteran or, like, soldier mentality that he has, because that's what his job was on his planet, was to, like, be the soldier. That's what Agent Kallus was. That's what the clones were. So it's, like, they can kind of, like, relate to that mindset of taking orders and, like, doing things that are morally gray, and like the camaraderie of, there's that element of like all is fair in love and war that they can maybe like kind of recognize in each other.
I loved how Zeb is someone who like asks questions.
Yeah, they have that whole monologue about
and like
the right questions.
Yeah, and like Agent Kallus, I think in that moment realized like, you know, I am just like a drone. Like I'm not doing anything. I don't have any individuality at all. Like I just see like the picture and that's it. I don't ask anything about it.
Not to mention wondering what he's actually accomplished within this past year of his life, which is zero. He's accomplished nothing.
I also like love that point where he's like, well, maybe you better start asking questions.
Yeah.
It's like, you fucking idiot. Like, you know, and
to Kallus's point, like, I don't think, like, I wouldn't think that way, but I thought it was, like, a good reasoning was that, like, Kallus was like, okay, you're accusing the Empire of genocide, like, why? Like, it's not rational, so we wouldn't do that, you know?
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
It's like, there's no reason to do that.
But then Zeb is like, you're just, like, trying to cover that up because you know deep down that they did wipe out these people and that the Empire is wrong. You're just afraid to ask questions because you don't want to find out that you're right and that the truth you're scared of is the truth.
That you're actually like, living in a lot of fear and like, and I love how he talks about like how like his philosophy.
Yeah,
you know?
he brings it up at like every point. It's really cool.
Like, and you can see where he's coming from, like as someone who's brought up in this environment where he's thinking like the strong survive and the weak perish. Okay, if you think that and there's good reason for you to think that, of course you're gonna like, just like with Sabine, they are brought up in this environment and they think, okay, well, the best thing for us to do is just be with the people who have the best weapons. Right. And
because the establishment is the Empire. Like, so like what else do you have like to believe in? Oh, I'm either with the Empire or I'm an outlaw or I'm just like a guy that works at the crystal necklace store or something. Like those are the only things I could be.
And you can tell like their mental states by the way they speak and like what surrounds them really influences that, because Zeb always has hope that they're gonna get out. And Kallus immediately just, like, loses faith. Like, he's like, why are you trying? Like, we're just going to die here. Like, there's no point. Yeah. And Zeb is like, what are you talking about? There's so much to live for.
Yeah, and I love Kallus is, like, used to the Imperial way of doing things, too, because he's like, what are you talking about? Like, we just got out of a battle. Like, your friends left. They had to leave. Like, because that's what the Empire would do if it were me. Your friends left, too. Like, that's the only way this could happen.
I think that maybe his eyes get opened up to how his way is not the only form of strength, and how there's like a lot of weakness in the Empire. Because in his world, like, there is no personal connection. It's just following orders. There's no warm greeting for him. Nobody really cares if he lives or dies.
Everything's so bleak. I mean, just like when he gets on the ship again, I mean, everything's just gray. Like any Imperial outpost or ship or anything is just, everything's the same. It's gray. There's no light to it. So like just him opening that door and standing there with that like glowing rock.
Yes.
It was just like, you could tell it's growing. Something's growing.
Yes. And I thought that was such a great like mirroring of that moon. That the moon was all like gray and freezing cold, and like the like supplies that they brought there, like the microchip shit was like all frozen over, and like that's how like the Empire is. It's like gray, and how do you find that, you know, little piece of meteor that's like living and that's not supposed to be there, that's like there and still surviving and still giving off that like warmth and light. Now I feel like the episode left off as that's Kallus. Like Kallus is going back to his own gray, frozen world of the Empire, and there's like that thing that wasn't supposed to happen, the meteor, like hit him, and that he's like has that symbol of life and
it's
hope
almost like
and
he
warmth.
never really left the moon, and he still needs that rock to get the warmth.
Right, like he still like isn't
He's like
saved.
he's still on that moon.
Your friends did find you.
Like I said they would. You know, we will treat you fairly.
I'll take my chances for the Empire. Zeb.
There's like so much to say about like what Star Wars is trying to teach us in this episode. I just keep going back to what Yoda says in the next episode, where he's like, you know, Ezra's talking about like, we have to win. We have to win. We have to like
And
kill
how do we
these
win
people.
without eliminating them?
Right. And then Yoda's like, no, we have to, like, I've gone down this path already, and it was like the path of fear. And what we have to really think about is, what does winning mean to us?
Yeah.
Like, what does it look like to win?
That line was really good.
Was it wrong for the Jedi to fight? Is it wrong for me to protect my friends?
Wrong. A long time fought I did, consumed by fear I was. Though see it I did not.
You were afraid?
Yes, afraid. Surprised, are you? A challenge lifelong it is, not to bend fear into anger.
In Shroud of Darkness, the Jedi are tired of the Inquisitors being on their tail. They keep messing with all their plans, and they keep foiling their attempts to find a new base. So Kanan's like, hey, we have to find a way to defeat them. And their solution is, let's go ask Yoda. We've spoken to him before. Why not go again? And so they return to the Lothal Temple and find a whole other series of tunnels that form the temple there. I loved that cheeky little line where is that what you're going to say?
Man, I love it.
I thought it was really cute. Yeah, new problem, new door. And that's how they go in, and they all sort of each have their own little vision quest.
I love that too, that they were all separated.
Yes. I mean, because I feel like everyone's going in there needing some sort of different kind of guidance at this point. Like,
Do you think that Kanan, did you think that he ever considered leaving the rebellion just so that they could stay safe from the Inquisitors?
They'd still hunt them down, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like that's like kind of implicit that like at least maybe Kanan considers that to be on the table, but I know Ezra would never want to leave. I mean, he even says like you don't need to worry about me, like I can handle myself against the Inquisitors, like let's keep doing this rebel thing.
I think it's a double-edged sword too, because the
double-edged blade,
spinning blade, only $19.99 at Target. The Jedi being a part of the rebellion also makes the rebellion more powerful.
Yeah.
You know, like they're able to get them out of like
but they get
more
all their
crazy
baggage.
shit.
Oh yeah, like all the time, like every week it's like the Jedi miraculously like saved the heroes from this like otherwise would have definitely been a surefire like everyone's dead scenario.
Yeah.
I guess let's talk about Kanan's first, because that's what everyone was. I thought this was interesting because I feel like Kanan's arc in the first season was like felt very like a constant pulse through the whole season, like Kanan growing. This season, I feel like Kanan has been more sort of like, he's been in pretty much every episode, but more often than not, he's kind of just like a supporting character.
Yeah.
Like, he's sort of got his sea legs now, and he's just like pushing his friends to, you know, in a sort of like fatherly way, like getting them to where they need to be. And so I realized, like, as he walked through the door, I was like, oh, like, this seems like the most intense thing that's happened to Kanan so far, like, since, like, Darth Vader showed up.
Do you think there was, like, a reason why he had a red lightsaber? I'm trying to think of one, but I can't.
I mean, I think it's just very basic, just kind of like
I feel it has to be a metaphor.
What was the point of the whole vision?
For him to be knighted?
Yeah, but why was he knighted?
Because he's finally understanding what it is to be a master. Like, you can't protect your student. Like, they have to just, like, you teach them what you know, you pass on what you know, and you hope for the best. Like, they take that to heart and become someone better than you so they can teach someone next. And you can't control them.
Try to fight, and you will fail. The rebellion will be destroyed. You will die, and your apprentice will become a servant of evil.
What are you talking about?
The dark side. It pulls at him. It calls to him. Eventually, he will be consumed by it. Stand aside. The boy must be eliminated before he embraces the darkness.
I won't let that happen.
I mean, you could look at the red lightsaber as like a metaphor for corruption. He's fighting against himself so strongly that he's going to tap into the dark side rage in order to corrupt himself fully to the point where he just destroys himself.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just like if you're afraid that Ezra's going to follow the dark side, I mean, that's, you know, according to Jedi code, like, that's fear, and, you know, you're letting the dark side in by, like, being afraid that Ezra can't handle himself. So, I mean, I think the red lightsaber is definitely just, like, in Star Wars iconography saying, like, hey, the dark side isn't that far away. Like, don't forget where you are and what you're doing. But
it's cool because it's kind of like, instead of the student graduating, it's the teacher graduating.
Right, yeah.
It's like now the teacher has graduated to like no longer really needing to teach and being able to just like step back and let the Force like make its way.
And I think Kanan, even though he, like I said, he was a supporting character, like I feel like Kanan did learn a lot of things this season. I mean, he had an episode with Sabine. He had his episode where he pushed Hera to and gave her the promotion. He has the episode with Rex where he gets over and buries the hatchet with him. So I feel like Kanan has learned a lot this season.
It's kind of like what Yoda does. It's like he like pushes other people, not necessarily like in the starring role himself. Do you think there was anything to it that he was knighted by Grand Inquisitor?
Yeah, I feel like that's
killed?
like very messy. That he killed, like that might be the source of it.
Well, he killed the Grand Inquisitor, and then the Grand Inquisitor knighted him, and then there was also the thing with the red lightsaber. So
I don't know. I just thought of it as just sort of like, we sort of like talk about it when it's relevant, but like it's not been a huge part of the story up until this point. Well, I guess there was that one episode, but it hasn't been like a huge thing like, hey, Ezra could fall to the dark side. Like this is the first time where it's really just like in your face,
planting
like
the seed.
Yeah, or it's just kind of like, you know, this is something that you should be worried about, where maybe that wasn't something we were thinking about before.
I wasn't really thinking about it.
So I feel like that maybe the Grand Inquisitor's ghost or whatever is kind of just like saying like, hey, like, you're at this point right now where you're going to have to make some decisions. The Grand Inquisitor was once a Jedi too, and he ended up,
evil.
You know, where you saw him. Yeah. I don't know. There's a bunch of... I honestly, his whole thing being there, I liked it, but I'm not sure. I'm genuinely not sure.
They
what
literally did it
Yeah.
because they wanted that badass line where he's like, now you're Jedi Knight, like I was. And then Jessica was like, oh,
Yeah.
I know that guy.
Yeah.
well,
And I'm sure
yes.
other people and me was like, oh, I know that guy.
But I didn't realize that he used to be a Jedi Knight. So do we like know who he was?
No.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we don't know. We know he's a guard and he has the yellow lightsaber. But I think Dave Filoni confirmed that he was like one of the guys that was just like in the trial room when Ahsoka was on trial.
Oh, really?
And like he watched like Barriss give her whole speech about how the Jedi are corrupt now and that the Empire is coming.
Wow.
So that he was in the room when that happened. So that's the only thing we know about him, and we learn a little bit more about him in the comics.
But I was
that's it.
also wondering if that's why the Inquisitors want to capture, not kill the Jedi? Because do they want to, like, take people with Force powers?
Yeah, that's why
And
they were
then-
like kidnapping those babies.
And then, well, yeah, but then convert them into Inquisitors.
I think definitely, yeah.
Like taking babies definitely to help them become Inquisitors, but like definitely taking Jedi now to like hunt other Jedi.
Like just the Machiavellian, like turn friend against friend, like that's the most like efficient way to kill your enemy is just like doing that.
Well, because it, like, fucks with, like, all the morale, too.
Right.
You know, like, fucks with your mind.
Sure, I mean, and let's think about, like, Ahsoka. That was her whole thing today. It was just, like, swallow the pill. Like, hey, your best friend is a fucking child murderer and, like, absolute monster.
Sith Lord.
Yeah, swallow this pill. And, like, how does that fuck with your morale then? Like,
So now she knows that
Yeah.
Anakin is Darth Vader.
And
Is that,
she's known this whole time. She just has been refusing to accept it.
And
That's
now-
my opinion.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I think that whole thing of, like, her connecting, it's like...
And like everything that Anakin was saying was literally all of her thoughts. Like those did not sound like Anakin's words. Those were totally
Right, like,
Ahsoka's
why did you leave?
interpretation
Well,
of what she did and stuff.
I agree. That's my reading of it too. That's like everything that Ahsoka was afraid of. But it's also like totally not off color for Anakin to say like, "Why did you leave me?"
But this is like
He's,
past
a little-
Anakin.
Right.
I know. Yeah, that's true.
But I think that
Or it
it's
could
like...
be future Anakin.
It's just like abusive relationship tactics, you
Mhm.
know, of like blaming your behavior on like the other person walking away. You know?
Yeah, it's because you made a decision to better your own life that I went and killed everyone. Like,
Right.
yeah, you should hold that over your head.
Right. It's
Um,
your fault that I did all the things that I did.
Yeah, all his words were so unfair.
Or same thing, even with Padme. Anakin's like, I did this for you, obviously. Like, what? I didn't
She's
want
like,
any of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. What was that thing at the end where like all of the guards were like going towards the Inquisitors and like forming this like little circle
Just a
around
projection.
them? and
Yeah, I
then
don't know.
they,
I
like,
think it's just like...
went
I think it's just a distraction.
I think it's just like
Yeah.
trippy distraction. I don't know.
I don't know. It felt like within the context of like them being there, it should mean something.
It felt important, yeah, but I'm not sure what it would have meant.
Because they're like, are they good? Are they bad? Like, is like,
The Temple Guard?
yeah,
They're
like,
good.
But is like, so is the Inquisitor like good now? Like the original Inquisitor?
I think it might have just been
like-
this was just like a vision. Like this was just like like something Kanan needed to relate to, and he knows this character. So
Yeah, but then it like took like I mean I guess it's just a question of where this is coming from, and unfortunately I watched the Rebels Recon, and they say explicitly, or at least one of the writers says explicitly like what's happening. I'm not sure if we want to have fun with it more before I spoil it.
Talk about it.
He says every vision that is seen in the episode is 100% motivated by Yoda and Yoda's connection like to the characters. Like Yoda is showing them things that they need to see.
How did I choose to win? The question is.
We already chose. We're going to fight.
Find Malachor.
Malachor? Well, who's Malachor?
Well, I kind of felt like he was saying go to Malachor reluctantly. Like he was like, you know, don't fight. All right, I guess I can change your mind, so go to Malachor.
I think like him telling him to go to Malachor wasn't like, okay, I guess I can't stop you, so go to Malachor. I think it was like he needs to go to Malachor, like to do what needs to be done to help further like the rebellion and the Jedi Order like for the future.
Yeah,
like it needs to happen. Like these are frustrating times, rough times, like, and the Jedi are gonna have to do shit that they have never done before, but it's necessary and it's needed. Just like in the episode in the Clone Wars where he was like, okay, I figured out what's happened, and like there's something greater in the future, so I'm just gonna let Order 66 happen.
Well, what do you think Yoda was trying to accomplish when he was telling him to like?
We'll find out when we watch the episodes.
Go to Malachor. Is that what you're gonna say?
No, the opposite. I was gonna say, what do you think he was trying to accomplish when he was telling him to like stay away from fighting? Like that's not the Jedi way.
No, I think he said like the Jedi still need to win, but it's like how we choose to
Right.
fight, like, and how we choose to accomplish victory.
Right.
So what do you think he was trying to imply that he should do?
I think in general, I think it's just like it's not necessarily what Ezra's saying, but how Ezra's choosing to say it. I'm not sure that fighting in this scenario is the wrong thing to do,
Right.
but Ezra is thinking about it very simply and probably very emotionally without really thinking it through and figuring out what's motivating him. I mean, the same deal that Yoda had with Ezra in the previous episode where they talked.
Tell me, why must you become Jedi?
I don't know, I guess because Kanan believes I can.
Kanan thinks you can. And you?
Well, I'll become stronger, powerful.
Power you seek.
I'd make the Empire suffer for everything it did, for everything it took from my parents. I wouldn't be helpless anymore.
Jedi way is revenge. Teach you this your master did?
No, Kanan would never. He's a good master, a great master.
Ezra doesn't really have a crystal clear answer, and he doesn't feel like he needs one, I guess, at this point in time.
I think that the answers were given in the previous episode. What he's saying is that the way of fighting, we tried that already. It doesn't work. And it's actually like that way of being is motivated by fear, like more than you think it is. It might seem like bravery, but it's actually like you're afraid of them, and that's why you're trying to wipe them out. The way to fight that's better is the way that like Zeb was doing. It's like more of like a spiritual battle than like a physical battle.
Thinking on like I guess a semi-meta sense, like Yoda kind of just destroys like all those fans' ideas that the Jedi are just like badass. When he says like, no, like during the entire Clone Wars, like we were taken over by the dark side. Like we were just like not the Jedi we were before.
I really like that scene because that's the only time any Jedi is like really ever acknowledged.
Hearing him admit that, I was like
definitely. I mean,
mind blown.
I remember watching and having that same reaction, Keats, where I was just like, just even the notion that during the prequel era, the Jedi were actually like fundamentally in the wrong was not really set in stone at that point in time. And really, Rebels was the first thing that episode. Like you said, that was the first time where it was said explicitly, like, hey, from the dude, from Yoda. Like, he just said...
The Grand Master.
The Grand Master. He was just like, yeah, straight up, we were corrupted by the dark side.
Well, because, like, the writers kind of talk through Yoda. Like, a lot of other stuff is just like, here's, like, a puzzle for you to figure out. Like, what do you think about this, audience? But I feel like when Yoda speaks, it's like, okay, like, so the writers are, like, admitting this.
Right.
Like, and that felt really good because it's like, okay, well, then we were on the right track. Like, all of our criticisms and critiques and stuff like that. Like, that is what they were trying to tell us.
I think before that, maybe people were afraid to say that.
Because, like, how could a high-budget, like, highly commercial franchise have, like, a deep message?
Yeah. Or, like, shame the audience that, like, is enjoying, like, certain aspects of it, you know? I think kind of like that element of it, too.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like...
Like, this is, like, everyone's favorite character. You listen, like, when Yoda talks, you shut up, and now he's just, like, destroying your opinion.
Right.
You never destroyed your opinion, I have.
I still, like, am trying to think about how do you balance the Force? You know, like, did Anakin balance the Force? Does Luke balance the Force? Like, has nobody balanced the Force yet? And, like, that's something that's still yet to be seen.
We've said it a lot, like, just trying to figure out, like, it's kind of one of those things that, like, every, like, 15 episodes, like, we bring up again. Like, do we have all the pieces now to, like, make sense?
Well, Jess brought up a good point last week, which is just that it came into, like, a very cynical point of view of what life is in general, but you're just like, there is no ultimate good, there is no ultimate evil. It's just, like, constantly one-upping each other for all eternity. So I guess, like, the balance would just be, like, to try to stop the everlasting one-upping of good and evil, to just trying to halt it at good.
It would be like peace.
For as long as possible. Exactly.
It's not peace, though. Like, there would be no peace with balance. Like, I don't know. I know how we talk about Christianity all the time, which is like, that's the household I grew up in. But it's so crazy to imagine heaven and just, like, being, like, happy all the time. But you can't be happy and perfect without evil. You wouldn't have the concept of that. You would just be emotionless. You would be nothing. There is nothing.
Well, you also don't want chaos, galactic civil war.
Yeah, obviously.
Peacetime.
Obviously, like, I want the good guys to be. I want peace for, like, the galaxy. But I'm saying peace is not balance. Balance would be nothing.
Do you think that the statement "bring balance to the Force" is a means to an end, or do you think that's just a concept that they want to uphold?
I feel like we don't have enough info to know that, but I mean, I guess it's kind of like
until they say it definitively. Basically.
Yeah, exactly. But like also, I mean, when we think of it, I mean, definitely, I think it's like open-ended in like the original trilogy, but I think the sequel trilogy just walked in and just sort of like really complicated it by throwing all the progress out the window and just like starting back. Like the Empire's back, they're twice as strong now, and they're gonna fuck shit up even more than they did before. So it really the question I think kind of depends on what they end up doing with that, but and it would be great to have this discussion like at that point and see if we could, try and like wrap it out definitively.
Something else happened. Darth Vader came. Well, what are they gonna do with that Jedi temple?
Ooh, such a good question.
Shit are they gonna do?
See you later. My name is Yates.
My name is Jordan. It's really hot. Let's go.
My name is Keith.
No, it's
Jessica.
They don't drop it. They do show what happens.
Thank goodness.
And it's pretty dope ski. My name is Yates.
What are the next episodes, Yates?
That's true. The next episodes
please let us know so I can leave.
The next episodes are The Forgotten Droid and Mystery of Chopper Base.
Oh, just two?
2 droid episodes back to back. It is a hell of a good time ahead of us.
Folks. Chop, chop.
May the chopper be with you. Always chopping, always.
Chopping.